All right, so get this. You guys sent in something pretty wild this time around. We're talking Elon Musk announcing a whole bunch of new products, but presented like it's some kind of summer blockbuster, complete with dramatic voiceover and everything, except the voiceover is an AI, and it thinks it's Don LaFontaine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so if you want the actual key takeaways from this spectacle, without all the theatrics, well, you've come to the right place. Let's dive deep into what Musk actually unveiled and see what it could all mean for the future.
Yeah, it's a fascinating way to do a product launch, isn't it? I mean, using that almost nostalgic, that classic movie trailer style presentation. But for these super futuristic concepts, it's very clever. It really speaks to Musk's, his knack for grabbing attention, creating excitement and buzz around everything he does.
Right. It's like he knows we all secretly.
Yeah.
Kind of crave that over the top.
Yeah.
Larger than life presentation, even when what we're talking about is a city bus.
Yeah. So let's start there, actually. The Tesla Cyberbus. Fully electric. Self-driving. And get this. It has Starlink internet for every single passenger on board. And the AI voiceover, it goes so far as to say that the Cyberbus, quote, transcends human life.
I mean, that's such classic Elon Musk, though, right?
Right.
He's never just offering you a product or, in this case, a better way to get from A to B. He's always got to paint this picture of like a completely different kind of experience.
Yeah.
And it's interesting that he's bringing Starlink into this, too. It suggests that. Like seamless connectivity, that's going to be a key part of his vision for the future of transportation.
And not just transportation either, right? I mean, next up on the list, there's the Optimus Beta. This is a robot. It's designed to do, like, household chores, stuff around the house.
Okay.
And the AI, in its best Don voice, it said that the Optimus Beta will, quote, clean with a vengeance. I mean, come on.
And it gets better or maybe worse, depending on how you look at it. There's even a slightly off-color joke about the robot, like, obeying your wife's every command. Like a...
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
I can see that that causing a bit of controversy.
Yeah, no kidding.
So we've got a home robot that supposedly cleans with a vengeance and obeys every command. There's a lot to unpack there. I mean, on the one hand, you've got the obvious convenience factor, right? Having a robot to take care of all those annoying chores, that could free up a lot of time and energy for people.
For sure.
But then on the other hand, you got to think about, the potential economic implications, what happens to all the jobs that are currently filled by human cleaners and, home care workers. It's a question we're going to have to grapple with more and more as this kind of automation becomes more common.
It's almost like Musk is trying to automate every aspect of our lives. Like first it was the commute with the self-driving cars. Now it's housework. What's next? Is he going to automate cooking dinner too?
Maybe. But what's even more ambitious than that? He's expanding Starlink beyond Earth. They're calling it Starlink Deep Space. And while that doesn't mean, we're phoning up aliens just yet.
Not yet.
It does point to a major expansion of the network's reach. And of course, the AI couldn't resist, throwing in a very dramatic and kind of ominous line. It said, quote, Starlink will contact them before they enslave us.
Okay. Yeah, that was definitely one of the more memorable lines. It sounds like something straight out of, like a space opera or something. But seriously, though, what are the implications of, bringing high-speed internet to deep space? I mean, is Musk actually laying the groundwork here for, like, interplanetary communication on a scale we've never seen before?
I think that's definitely the direction he's heading in. And it's important to remember that Musk is really all about interconnected systems. Think about it. If he's serious about colonizing Mars, which he very much seems to be, then having reliable communication, that's going to be absolutely essential. So Starlink Deep Space, that could very well be a key piece of that puzzle.
And speaking of Mars, he also unveiled plans for a sustainable habitat. It's called the SpaceX Terradome. It's designed to create, like Earth-like conditions on the red planet. But of course, the AI, it just could resist. Adding a little touch of ominous foreshadowing there. It said, quote, Terradome, your home on Mars, for now. That line, it perfectly captures like the mix of excitement and trepidation that surrounds this whole idea of, colonizing another planet. On the one hand, it's this incredibly bold and ambitious step towards securing humanity's future, beyond Earth.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it raises all these really profound questions about what we're leaving behind. And what kinds of challenges we might face in this new environment. It's almost like he's building the world of a sci-fi novel, but in real life. And speaking of blurring the lines between science fiction and reality, he also announced something called the Tesla Neuroband. This is a wristband that supposedly interacts with your neural signals
Yeah.
to monitor your health and even potentially enhance your cognitive abilities. The AI, it described it as, quote, controlling your destiny, one thought at a time.
Whoa, okay, so that's where things start to get really interesting and maybe even a little bit unsettling. We're talking about technology now that could directly interface with our brains, potentially impacting our thoughts, the emotions, even our sense of self.
Yeah.
I mean, that raises all sorts of ethical and philosophical questions that we as a society are only just beginning to,
To
well,
even consider.
yeah, there's definitely a lot to ponder there. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about something a bit more down to earth, literally.
Oh.
Musk also unveiled Tesla's solar skin. This is a technology that can turn almost any surface into a solar power generator. Your house, your car, your clothes. Heck, the AI even joked about turning your own skin into a power source. Okay, so that's a bold claim. And it's not entirely clear how feasible that is, at scale. But the concept itself is fascinating. Imagine a world where clean, renewable energy is just seamlessly integrated into our everyday lives. No more bulky solar panels, no more reliance on fossil fuels. It's a vision of a truly sustainable future.
Okay, now, for something, that's either pure genius or completely bonkers, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
The Boring Company, Musk's tunneling venture, they announced something called the Aqua Tunnel. It's an underwater transportation system.
An underwater transportation system.
Yeah, and it's designed to, well, as the AI so dramatically put it, to make you, quote, dive into the horrors of the deep on your morning commute.
Only Elon Musk could combine, like, cutting-edge technology with that kind of, a healthy dose of theatrics. The idea of underwater tunnels isn't new, but the scale and ambition of this Aqua Tunnel thing, it's definitely noteworthy. It suggests that Musk is thinking big when it comes to, like, solving traffic congestion and revolutionizing how we get around in cities.
So let me get this straight. We've got electric buses that transcend human life, chore-doing robots, interplanetary internet, brain-enhancing wristbands, solar-powered everything, and underwater tunnels that take you to the horrors of the deep. It's a lot to take in.
It is. It's like a whirlwind of ideas, some more grounded in reality than others. But what I think is really remarkable is how all these seemingly disparate announcements, they all tie back to, like, a few core themes: sustainability, automation, and just pushing the boundaries of what's technologically possible.
Okay, so we've covered the what of Musk's latest announcements. Now it's time to dive a little deeper into the why and the so what. What's the bigger picture here? What are the potential implications of all this, both positive and negative?
That's exactly what we're going to explore next. We're going to go beyond just the spectacle of it all and really dissect the real-world impact of these innovations, from, their potential to transform entire industries to the ethical dilemmas they might pose.
Hang tight, everybody. We'll be right back.
Welcome back, everybody. So now that we've kind of laid out, the spectacle of Elon Musk's announcements, let's unpack some of the details and see if we can figure out what his overall vision is here.
Yeah, it's like we're trying to put together a puzzle where the pieces are constantly changing shape. But you're right, there are some definite themes running through all of this. What stands out to you as the most significant thread?
I think it's this idea of interconnected systems, like blurring the lines between, different aspects of our lives. Take transportation, for example, the cyberbus. It's not just an electric vehicle. It's like a node in a network. It's powered by renewable energy, and it's seamlessly connected to the digital world through Starlink.
And it's not just about moving people around, is it? It's about transforming the entire experience of commuting. Imagine having, high-speed internet access on your bus ride so you can work or learn or just relax and enjoy the journey.
Exactly. And that same concept of seamless integration, it extends to other areas too. Like, think about the Optimus Beta robot. It's not just about automating chores. It's about creating a more efficient and inconvenient home environment, potentially freeing up our time and energy, for other pursuits.
Because let's be real for a second. The idea of robots doing our chores, it sounds appealing on the surface.
Yeah.
But it also raises some pretty big questions, like what happens to the people whose jobs are automated? Do we end up with a society where only like a select few benefit from all this, while others are left behind?
Yeah, those are valid concerns. And they're not limited to just robotics either. The same questions apply to, any technology that has the potential to disrupt existing industries and displace workers. As we move towards a more automated future, we really need to think carefully about how to make sure that everyone benefits, not just, a privileged few.
Like we're on the verge of this massive technological revolution.
Yeah.
And we're still trying to figure out, what the rules of the game are.
Exactly. And that's where the ethical considerations come in. We need to have, open and honest conversations about the potential consequences of these technologies and develop frameworks for responsible innovation. It's not enough to just marvel at, the ingenuity of these inventions. We have to be mindful of their impact on society as a whole.
It seems like Musk is at least trying to address some of these concerns through his focus on sustainability.
Yeah.
Solar skin, for instance. I mean, that could potentially revolutionize the way we generate and consume energy.
Right.
Making clean energy more accessible and affordable for everyone.
That's certainly the hope. If we can harness the power of the sun more effectively, we can reduce our reliance on fossil fuels and, mitigate the effects of climate change. And if you can make those technologies widely available, then we can create a more equitable and sustainable future for all.
Okay, it all sounds very idealistic, but I can't help but wonder if it's actually achievable. Are we really talking about like a utopian future where technology solves all our problems? Or are we just setting ourselves up for disappointment?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And I don't think anyone has a definitive answer. But I do think it's important to approach these advancements with, a healthy dose of both optimism and skepticism. We need to be excited about the potential benefits, but also realistic about the challenges and, the potential pitfalls.
It's like that old saying, right? Hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Exactly. And that brings us back to the importance of critical thinking. We can't just blindly accept everything we hear about these technologies. We need to ask questions, challenge assumptions, and consider the potential consequences, both intended and unintended.
Speaking of challenging assumptions, let's talk about Starlink deep space for a minute. It's easy to get caught up in, the whole sci-fi fantasy of interplanetary internet. But what are the actual practical implications? Is it really feasible to build and maintain a network that vast?
It's definitely an ambitious undertaking, and there are tons of technical hurdles to overcome, but consider the progress that SpaceX has already made with their reusable rockets and their plans for Starship. You know that spacecraft designed for interplanetary travel, if they can pull it off, Starlink deep space could revolutionize our understanding of the cosmos.
Yeah, imagine having real-time data from Mars, or even further out in the solar system. I mean, it could transform fields like astronomy, planetary science, maybe even space exploration itself.
And it could also have huge implications for communication here on Earth, too. Imagine a world where, remote areas, disaster zones, even entire continents are seamlessly connected through a network that bypasses, traditional infrastructure.
It's kind of mind-boggling to think about all the possibilities. But let's not forget about the potential downsides either. What about the issue of space debris? As we launch more and more satellites into orbit, are we creating like a hazard for future space travel?
That's a legitimate concern for sure. And it's one that we need to address. We need to develop, responsible protocols for managing space traffic and mitigating the risks of collisions. It's a challenge that requires international cooperation and a long-term perspective.
And what about the potential for misuse? Could Starlink deep space be used for, like surveillance or espionage, or even military purposes? It's a bit unsettling to think about. The internet becoming a weaponized tool in space.
Those are all valid concerns, and they highlight how important it is to establish clear guidelines and regulations for the use of space-based technologies. We need to make sure that these advancements are used for the benefit of humanity, not for harmful or destructive purposes.
That's a lot of responsibility to shoulder. And it's not even clear who should be in charge of making those decisions. Governments, international organizations, private companies like SpaceX.
That's a debate that's only going to get more intense as space becomes more accessible and commercialized. We need to start thinking about these issues now before they become insurmountable problems.
Yeah, it's a lot to wrap our heads around. It seems like every step forward with technology brings with it a whole new set of challenges and dilemmas.
That's the nature of progress, though, isn't it? It's rarely a straight line. There will always be trade-offs, unintended consequences, unforeseen challenges. But that's also what makes it so exciting. We're constantly pushing the boundaries of what's possible. And in doing so, we're learning more about ourselves and the universe around us.
I'm starting to see why Musk chose to present all these announcements in such a dramatic fashion. It's not just about selling products. It's about capturing our imaginations and inspiring us to think bigger, bolder, and maybe even a little bit crazier.
Exactly. And that's actually what we're going to explore in the next segment. We'll delve into the psychology behind Musk's approach, the role of narrative in shaping our perceptions of technology, and the implications of this new era of innovation.
Stay tuned, everybody, for the final part of our deep dive. All right, and we're back for the final part of our deep dive into Elon Musk's latest round of announcements.
I guess it's been quite a ride so far. From self-driving buses
Yes.
to, interplanetary internet and even brain-computer interfaces.
It really has, and I think it's important to remember that not everyone out there shares Musk's unbridled enthusiasm for technology. Some people see these innovations as potential threats, like disruptions to the status quo that could lead to job losses, social unrest, maybe even existential risks.
Yeah, it's like that classic sci-fi trope of technology running amok. Like the robots take over, AI becomes self-aware, and then humanity is left to pick up the pieces.
Exactly. And while those scenarios might seem far-fetched, I think they do tap into a very real anxiety that people have.
Right.
But the pace of technological change, the potential for unintended consequences. It's interesting that Musk chose to present all these announcements in such a theatrical way. The AI voiceover and all the dramatic pronouncements. It's almost like he's playing with those anxieties, using humor and hyperbole to kind of disarm our fears and make these technologies seem more palatable.
I think there's something to that. By acknowledging the potential for both good and bad, and by embracing the uncertainty of the future, I think Musk is inviting us to have a more nuanced conversation about technology's role in our lives.
Right. So instead of shying away from the difficult questions, he's putting them front and center and forcing us to confront, our own hopes and fears about the future.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole conversation so fascinating. It's not just about the specific technologies themselves. It's about the bigger societal and philosophical questions of, what it means to live in a world where these things are becoming possible.
It's like we're all writing the next chapter of the human story together.
Yeah.
And we're still trying to figure out what kind of narrative we want to create.
And that's a responsibility we all share. It's not just up to, tech visionaries like Elon Musk to dictate the future. It's up to all of us to engage in these conversations, to think critically about the choices we make, and to shape the world we want to live in.
So what can we do as individuals to make sure that technology is used for good, for progress, for the betterment of humanity? It can feel kind of overwhelming sometimes, like we're just tiny cogs in this giant machine.
Yeah, it's easy to feel that way. But I think there are a few things we can do. First and foremost, stay informed. Don't just accept the hype or the fear-mongering at face value. Do your own research, understand the different perspectives, and form your own opinions.
So it's kind of like being a responsible consumer, but for information instead of products.
Exactly. And just like with any product, be critical of the source. Who's funding the research? Who's profiting from this technology? What are their motives?
Right. And don't be afraid to ask questions if something doesn't make sense. Or if you have concerns about, the ethical implications of something. Speak up. Have these conversations. Share your thoughts with your friends and family. Challenge each other to think more deeply about these issues.
The more we talk about these things, the more we can demystify technology and make it something that we can all understand and participate in shaping.
So it's about empowering ourselves to be active participants in the future, not just passive observers.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, I think it's about remembering that technology is a tool. It can be used for good or for bad. It can liberate or oppress. It can create or destroy. The choice is ultimately ours.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've reached the end of our deep dive. It's been a fascinating journey, and I want to thank you, our listeners, for sending in the source material. That sparked this whole conversation.
We hope you found it insightful and thought-provoking and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
And we hope it's encouraged you to think more critically about technology in your own life and in the world around you.
As always, we'd love to hear your thoughts, so feel free to reach out to us on social media, send us an email, or leave a comment on our website. Let's keep this conversation going.
Until next time, everybody, stay curious, stay informed, and keep diving deep.